Hey, working moms, I know you have big, audacious goals. You want more peace at home. You want to feel successful at work. You want to feel the way you thought you would by now, calm, confident, balanced, proud. But if you're honest, sometimes it feels like you're just pushing a boulder uphill, right? You're working hard, you're doing so much, and you're still not getting there as fast as you want. Here's the truth. Hustling harder isn't the answer. Waiting for life to magically get easier isn't the answer either. There is the faster way to hit your goals, and it has everything to do with how you show up internally, not how much you cram into your calendar. In today's episode, I'm breaking down 4 strategies to fast track your goals and to skip all the struggle. These are the exact shifts that I built my ambitious and balanced coaching program around. They're the shifts that help my clients experience real, sustainable change faster than they ever thought possible. If you're ready to stop spinning your wheels and start seeing momentum toward the life that you actually want, this episode is for you. Are you ready? Let's get to it. Hello, working moms. So the idea of this episode came to me as I have been explaining to different people, like colleagues, some family, because there's been holidays and birthdays and things like that, my clients. I've been explaining to them where this group coaching program came from, essentially where the ambitious and balanced process came from, right? I teach a process that is 3 steps. I call them the 3 C's: clarity, confidence, control. We've talked a lot about them here in the podcast. I will make sure they are in the show notes if you want to dig in a little bit to the process, but that's not what we're going to talk about here because we've talked about that a lot. I actually want to talk about where this process came from. I want to talk about the principles behind the process, if you will. It's like, what's behind the process? How did I get to this process? And my answer is simple. It came from me deeply thinking about you and thinking about what it would take for you, a busy working mom who feels maybe on the edge of burnout, who has been, is managing, 100 things at a time, all of the time, what it would take for you to experience joy and more family time and more rest time, but not at the expense of success and productivity at work. Like, how fast can I get you out of your overworking habits where you over prioritize not just your paid work, but your unpaid work as well, and into a life that feels more sustainable? And my answer to that question back when I started this program was 3 months. Literally, this is where the 3-month time frame for the ambitious and balanced cohort came from, because I started analyzing the results of my clients over the past 8 years and the clients that were the most successful and that had the most expedited growth, and they were reaching their goals faster than other ones and were able to maintain those past coaching. I started analyzing those particular clients, and I started analyzing the tools that they really leaned into and that they told me they continued to use even after our coaching together. And as I started to really look at that data, what I came up with was, in 3 months' time, you can literally go from feeling burnt out and overworked, if you follow this process, to a life that you feel in control of, where you've actually learned proper prioritization and boundary setting, and where you feel in control of your emotions and you're not spiraling so much in your head, literally in 3 months' time. And I took that from analyzing my clients that had done that over and over and over again, right? And so from there, I actually had to boil down the process a little bit, because with my one-on-one clients, I work with them for 6 months, sometimes longer. There's a lot of tools, a lot of different kinds of conversations that I tend to have with those that are in my one-on-one program. But for the group, I wanted to streamline all of it, right? I wanted to make it happen in 3 months or less. Okay. And so that's where the 3 C's, the 3-step process came from. And that's where I created this program from. And so I want to talk about not just the ambitious and balanced process and work-life balance and streamlining work-life balance and accelerating that. I actually want to talk about what it takes to accelerate any goal that we have, right? Because I analyzed my clients and I looked at their results, but I also deeply thought about what it takes to accelerate goals, to make them happen faster, because there are principles behind that, just generally speaking. And then I combined them into this ambitious and balanced program. That's where it came from. So today I want to talk about the kind of behind the scenes, like what does it take to truly accelerate yourself towards your goals, to grow faster, to meet your goals in an accelerated time frame. And that's what we're going to talk about here today. So I have 4 strategies for you, four ways of actually accelerating your goals and making sure you meet your goals, not only like guarantee that you meet your goals, but actually make them happen on the fastest time frame possible, right? That's why ambitious and balanced is so fast. It's only 3 months. I'm about efficiency. I'm about effectiveness, right? And so I want to talk about those principles here today. Now, of course, I will share examples from women in the program. I'll talk about work-life balance, but I want you to think about your own goals, whatever goals you might have today, and apply these principles to those goals as well. And I'll share kind of a breadth of different types of goals as we talk about accelerating growth toward, or accelerating progress towards your goals. That's really what it is. All right. You ready? Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. This is going to be such a good one. You're going to probably want to grab a pen and a paper if you can, or kind of commit to coming back to listening to this, because there's going to be so many good nuggets in here. All right. All right. So the first way I want to talk about accelerating your goals, or like accelerating the process of hitting your goals. I'm going to have to come up with a better way of saying that. Otherwise, I'm going to stumble through this entire episode. Okay. The first one I want you to think about, or the first strategy I want you to think about, is this. In order to accelerate toward your goals, you have to be willing to feel any feeling. In order to accelerate towards your goals, you need to be willing to feel any feeling. Okay, what do I mean by that? All right. So setting and hitting goals is uncomfortable, right? I mean, yes, it feels good to achieve something that you've set out to achieve, but the process to get there feels hard. And whatever that hard emotion is, that's the emotion that you have to be willing to feel in order to achieve your goals faster. Okay, so let me give you an example. I'm going to start out with the goal of losing weight, because it's such a straightforward goal. Most of us have a concept of what it takes to lose weight. It's not as nebulous as something like work-life balance. In order to lose weight, you have to adjust your diet. Okay. Now, I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty of that. Like, I'm not even going to get into the idea that you have to diet. I'm just saying you're going to have to adjust what you eat, right? We can probably all get on board with that idea. If you want to lose weight, part of it is about the intake that you have into your body. That's likely going to have to be adjusted. And let's be honest, that's not easy, right? If you are somebody that likes their cookies or their ice cream at night, or you want your hamburger and fries at lunch instead of a salad, it is going to be difficult to change those habits. And all throughout the day, you're going to be making decisions about what you're going to choose to put into your body, or what you're going to choose to not put into your body, right? And all throughout the day, you're going to have to overcome that urge to want to eat something that isn't a part of your planned diet, right? You're not going to be able to eat that cookie if you didn't plan to eat it. You're not going to be able to have the popcorn at the end of the night if you didn't plan to eat it, right? And so all throughout the day, you're actually going to have to be willing to feel the discomfort of having a desire or an urge and then not gratifying that desire, right? That feeling almost of lack on some level. So you're going to have to feel the feeling of urge, the feeling of desire, and then let it go, and not like actually give into it in order to achieve that goal of losing weight and to do it fast. Let me give you an example of somebody in my program, right? I have someone in my current program. She's got ADHD. She really struggles to stay on task. I've had many clients that have had ADHD, particularly when there isn't a project or a task that is like not black and white. Meaning like there could be lots of different ways for her to approach a particular project or a task. Whenever she has that on her to-do list, it sends her immediately into procrastination, right? In those moments, rather than sit down and make a decision about how she's going to approach that project, instead, she tends to check her email, check her messages, do a bunch of other little things, sort of just avoiding the project that really needs to get done. And the reason that's a problem is because in this program, she's recognizing that procrastination is a big piece that gets her kind of behind throughout her day, which then forces her to log back on later into the evening and sometimes working many hours into the evening because she didn't get her work done in the day because she was procrastinating on things that she really just needed to like hammer in and get done, right? In order for her to create sustainable work-life balance, she actually needs to learn how to follow through with projects and tasks, even when she doesn't know exactly how to approach them. So this client needs to learn how to feel the anxiety of maybe not approaching the project right, or maybe it taking a little longer than desired. This client needs to learn how to feel potential failure because she might not make the right decision on how to approach the project. And then she might even communicate it out wrong, right? She has to be willing to feel a little uncertain and take steps towards completing that project anyway, right? So to sum that up, she needs to be willing to feel anxiety, potential failure, uncertainty. And the faster she's willing to feel those feelings instead of avoid them, which is the procrastination process, the faster she's going to get in the habit of being someone that follows through, even when projects feel hard and uncertain to her. Literally, the fastest way to achieve any goal that you set out for yourself, whether that's a goal around work-life balance or weight loss or getting promoted, whatever it is. In fact, I want you to just take a moment right now to think about a goal that you have for yourself, something that you've been wanting, something that you've been working towards or longing for. And I want you to consider what emotion is getting in the way of your progress towards that goal, okay? Maybe it's fear of failure. Maybe it's fear of letting someone down or disappointing someone, or maybe it's anxiety or stress, or maybe it's even the feeling of being busy. I don't like the feeling of being busy. And so I tend to avoid like overscheduling myself out of fear, but then I kind of miss out on opportunities because even though I had the capacity, I didn't take the capacity because I was afraid of feeling busy, right? So what emotion are you essentially avoiding that's getting in the way of you accelerating your growth and your progress towards your goals? That is the emotion that you need to be willing to feel. I like to tell my clients, and I know I've shared this here on the podcast with you before, it's the only thing that ever gets in the way of you achieving your goals or following through with something that you said you were going to follow through with, like holding to your boundaries. The only thing that ever gets in the way is a feeling. Literally, it is an emotional experience that you don't want to feel. And that's why one of the core tools that I've developed and that I teach inside this program is an emotional processing tool. I call it the pivot protocol. I've talked about it here on the podcast. We have practiced using that tool and we talk about it all the time in the program. I continue to point my clients back to that single tool. And while it might feel simple, this idea of feeling your feelings and kind of pivoting out of one emotion into another one, while it might feel simple, it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to sit and feel your emotional experience in your body, right? But the moment you're willing to do that and do it faster, you're going to see exponential growth towards your goals, right? So it's an emotional processing tool that I teach. It is our emotions that get in the way of us experiencing our goals and making progress to our goals. And so the faster you're willing to feel any emotion, the faster you're going to hit your goals. The second principle behind accelerated growth towards goals is a ruthless commitment to mindset work. If you think about the people in your life that has likely had the most success in their careers, or the ones that just seem to have it all put together and manage things differently than you or other people, if you really think about what separates them, it's their mindset, right? They don't let themselves go down the negative rabbit holes that cause self-doubt or where they lack confidence or overwhelm or stress. Literally, they have this fortified mind. That's what keeps them going. It's their ruthless ability to believe that all things are possible and that they're capable and that they could do anything that they set their mind to. Your ability to manage your mind and stay positive and keep a positive self-belief, that is something that you're not born with. It's something that you cultivate, right? And if you want to accelerate growth toward your goals to achieve work-life balance faster or hit any goal faster, you have to have a commitment to managing your mind. That could look like all sorts of things, from regular journaling to affirmation practices to therapy or coaching that offer spaces to process your thoughts. But if you want to hit your goals fast, you need to have a regular daily practice of managing your mind intentionally. And so, what I mean by that, what do I mean by managing your mind intentionally? I mean that you are giving space to examine the sort of mindsets and thoughts and beliefs that you hold on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, kind of examine them, decide which ones of these mindsets and thoughts are really not helpful to you, learn how to let those go, and then fill your mind back up with thoughts and beliefs and mindsets that actually serve you and your goals. In the ambitious and balanced process, I offer all sorts of tools that help you reframe the way you think of examining your thought processes and your swirly thoughts and the overwhelming thoughts and the stress. I have all sorts of tools, but I have my clients lean into two very specific tools, right? It's the daily kickstart. That is the 10-minute morning journaling practice that sets you up for a mindset of success throughout your day. Takes 10 minutes or less. And then the second practice is a work to home transition process, which has a lot of mindset elements to it as well as kind of organizing things and so forth. And my clients consistently tell me how foundational these tools are to them when they actually start putting them into a regular practice. They literally notice a difference almost within about, I'm going to say 5 days. They can tell me that they can point back to those practices and say, it's because of these practices that I feel this way, right? They shift you almost immediately when you learn to examine the thoughts that are in your head and then put back into your head the thoughts that actually serve you, that are helpful to you, that make you feel good and that boost your confidence. I was just talking to a client last week who was telling me, actually, we were celebrating. We were celebrating how much flexibility she's been able to put into her schedule since joining my program. She used to feel guilty if she needed to pick up her daughter from school or early, or if she decided to do a workout class in the middle of the day, even though she had flexibility within her schedule and that was totally okay with the company, she felt terrible about it. And she kept thinking like, my butt's got to be in my chair from 8 to 5. Otherwise I'm a terrible employee and I'm doing things wrong and they're going to find out. And she had all this internal dialogue about that. And so we were celebrating the fact that a lot of that is lessened for her in the past couple of months. Like a lot of that has really tamed down and she's able to have a lot more flexibility throughout her day and feel a lot more in control of her calendar. So we were celebrating that. And then not that long later in the conversation, she was telling me about her daily kickstart practice. And I asked her, well, what's the mindset that you're cultivating in that daily kickstart? And she said, oh, I'm cultivating the mindset that I have control over my calendar and that I'm not failing if I'm not in my chair from 9 to 5. And I was like, hold on, time out. So you're telling me you've been doing this daily practice, this daily kickstart practice. And even then she hasn't been totally consistent at it. But when she does it, she's been working on this flexibility with her time mindset. And here we are having a conversation about how she's more flexible with her time. And it all feels good. I'm like, let's connect the dots here between this practice that you've been doing on a semi-regular basis and the shift that's happened, right? That's all because she's intentionally filling her mind with thoughts that are helpful to her, that actually move her closer towards her goals. Whatever your goals are, whether they are around work-life balance or weight loss or career growth or getting promoted, setting aside regular time to examine what you think and then to intentionally think positive thoughts about yourself on purpose, that is going to accelerate your growth, particularly if you do no mindset work right now. You are going to like jumpstart your acceleration towards your goals. All right. The next strategy I want to offer to you is this. You have to take action before you're ready. You have to take action before you're ready. I mean, in big ways and little ways, right? When you have big, audacious goals, and I just a side note, I really think that going after your career and having a big career and feeling successful with young kids, that's a big, audacious goal, right? But going after goals, whatever they are, changing habits, that is always going to come with a level of self-doubt, right? Uncertainty, right? If you want to lose 10 pounds and you've never really done that or you've been struggling to do that, hitting that goal is going to feel hard. It's going to feel confusing. You're going to have a lot of self-doubt along the way if you're doing it right, if you should be doing things differently, if it's the right timing for it, right? If you have always been an overachiever and you want to figure out how to stop caring so much about work and what people think at work, and you no longer want to put in 120% at work because you want to give something to your family, right? If that's your goal and you've never really done that before, it's going to come with a lot of questions and a lot of uncertainty and a lot of self-doubt. You're going to wonder all of the time if you're doing it right. And you're going to go back and forth like, oh, maybe I should stay on and I work a little bit more and get a little bit more done. And then the other side of you is going to think, no, I got to spend some time with my family. I need to rest, right? You're going to go back and forth in this conversation in your head all of the time. Of course you are. When you're going about making lifestyle changes and creating new habits, it's not that linear. There's a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of second guessing and doubting. And if you're going to accelerate progress towards those changes, towards those habit changes, towards those goals, you're simply going to have to make decisions and move forward anyway, despite the uncertainty, despite the doubt, despite the wondering, despite the even potential of getting it wrong. Right? The people that meet their goals fastest are the ones that are willing to make the fastest decisions. They do not sit in questions very long. They do not sit in confusion. They do not sit in I don't know. They do not sit in what if. They decide, they execute, they evaluate, they try again, right? You cannot be waiting around for certainty all of the time in order to hit your goals, in order to make progress towards your goals. That's going to have you stalling. That's going to have you feeling stuck, right? Ultimately, it's just not going to happen. You're not going to meet your goals. Learning how to trust yourself and follow your hunches and have compassion for yourself, even if you don't meet your desired results, that is what it's all about. In the Ambitious and Balanced program, the second C, it's about confidence. It's about building up a cheerleader inside of you that is always rooting for you, that is always showing you evidence for how you're doing things right, instead of always focusing on how you're doing things wrong, right? That internal voice and developing that internal voice of self-trust and validation, that is an important part of accelerating towards your goals, which is why it is a whole step in my 3-step process. A lot of times we like to wait around until we see the whole picture, right? We see all the steps that have to happen in order for you to get from here where you're at today to the goal. But generally speaking, that's not how it works. You usually only are able to see 1, maybe 2 steps ahead. You don't see the whole path in order to get there. If you saw the whole path, it would be a lot easier in order to hit that path. Everybody would be hitting their goals all of the time, but that's not how it works. Right? Generally speaking, you have to be willing to take the next step and not know what the step is following in order to actually make progress towards the goals that you have. If I give you an example on a big picture, like I remember when I decided to get my coaching certification over 10 years ago, I didn't know what my intention was. Like I didn't necessarily have the intention of starting a business at that time. I didn't know what the heck I was going to even do with the certification. All I knew is it was my next step. And so I enrolled, and I remember in that very first class, it was a virtual class, we hung up the call and I sat on the floor and I wept. I wept because it felt so certain to me that this is exactly where I needed to be. I didn't know what was next. I didn't know that I would be a multi-6-figure business owner where I would get to participate in changing the lives of working moms and shifting the paradigm for women about what's possible for them. I didn't know any of that. It would have been a whole lot easier to make that decision at that time and to spend the money on the certification and the things that I did at that time. It would have been easier, but I wasn't going to get to know any of that. I had to take the first next step and trust that next step, which was engaging in the coaching certification. Obviously, then I got certified. Eventually down the line, I realized I think I do want to start a business, and I took that path and have been taking it one step forward ever since. The more willing you are to make decisions faster, even when there's a little bit of doubt, even when you're like a 7 out of 10, not a 10 out of 10, but like a 7 out of 10, that is when you're going to hit your goals faster. The last strategy I want to offer to you to accelerate your growth and help you hit your goals faster is to get help. This one might seem a little bit obvious, but I know for we as women, we actually hesitate to get the support that we need to hit our goals, right? We kind of hold this belief that we should be able to just figure this out, right? That we should have it all together, that we shouldn't have to pay someone to help us figure out how to manage our life or how to balance work and home, right? It's the superwoman complex. Look, the fastest way to lose weight is to join a gym, to hire a personal trainer, to work with a nutritionist, to get a weight loss coach, right? Literally, they're going to create a plan for you that's tailored toward you, that has worked for many other people, right? So they have the proof to show you that it works. They're going to tailor that to you and they're going to help you meet your goals. That's what you're paying them to do, right? If you have a goal to get promoted or to move up in your career or to shift careers, the fastest way to do that is to engage in mentorship, right? To literally talk to other women that have done that are going to help you figure out your next steps, introduce you to people, network to people, right? And if you really want to accelerate the promotion process, it would be to hire a coach to help you with that, because they're forced accountability. With mentors and networking, the accountability only goes so far. They're likely not checking in on you on your progress towards those goals. But when you hire someone, that is literally their job, to help you reach the results that you've hired them to reach, right? It's their job to help you achieve your goals faster. That's how they get a good referral. That's how they get a good recommendation. That's how you get what you want faster. That's the nature of actually investing in your goals. It's one of the best, most accelerated paths forward if you want to hit your goals faster. I have a client in the current Ambitious and Balanced cohort who literally signed up for the group on the last day. Like, we started the retreat just 2 days later after she signed up. And when I was talking with her, when she signed up, she said, I'm just feeling so stuck. Like, she was feeling every day, she was waking up the same routine, not prioritizing herself, not prioritizing her health, not prioritizing her marriage, not being present with her kids. She couldn't control her mind. She was working way more than she wanted to work. And she needed to interrupt those cycles, and she couldn't figure it out on her own. And actually, in reality, what she probably told me is, I could figure this out on my own, but it would take too long. And that's the whole point of this episode, is talking about accelerated progress, right? And so, yes, you could probably read a bunch of books. You could probably follow a bunch of influencers. You probably could try to do many things on your own to reach your work-life balance goals. But the fastest way to do it is to invest in that process and just engage with somebody that has done it before. For me, I got that coaching certification. I decided to start the business, and then I floundered. I floundered for like a year and a half trying to figure out, how do you get clients? How do you do this business thing, right? And that was when I made my first investment into a business coach, because I didn't want to reinvent the wheel anymore. I actually just wanted to find somebody that I trusted, that I knew had reached their goals and had helped others reach their goals. And there was proof of that. It felt worth the investment to me to accelerate my goals of having a successful, sustainable business, right? And now, since then, I have invested a couple $100,000 in coaching between my husband and I, reaching our goals, because I want to hit them faster. And that investment is one of the ways that I do that. Whether we're talking about weight loss, or we're talking about work-life balance, or getting promoted, or growing your business, or getting out of procrastination and people-pleasing habits, you can go do this on your own. There's lots of ways to do it. There's lots of processes. There's lots of influencers. But if you want to do it fast, the fastest way is to not reinvent the wheel, but simply engage in a process that already exists and is already working, right? There's something about putting money toward a goal. Like, when you purchase a really nice pair of shoes, or a nice purse, or a nice pair of sunglasses, for me, right? You protect that. Like, your mind is thinking about how precious this was because you invested in it and you want to keep it nice for longer. And so you buy the nice case and you make sure that you're keeping your shoes really, you're not wearing your shoes in to the farm or wherever it might be. And you're keeping your purse really nice because you have in the back of your mind, I invested in this. This matters to me. And so I want to keep it nice for as long as possible. And it's the same mentality when we invest in ourselves and we invest in coaching and we invest in mentors, is that we actually put our money where our mouth is and say, this matters to me. And so I'm going to invest in it differently. Literally, energetically, you put more of yourself into it because of the investment. Being willing to feel uncomfortable feelings, making a commitment to cultivate a positive mindset, making faster decisions, even when you're feeling uncertain, and making an investment in a coach or a mentor or a guru or a process, something that has been proven, so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel and you have built-in accountability. That is what's going to help you meet your goals the fastest. And all of this is embedded in the Ambitious and Balanced 3-month group coaching process. I'm going to help you learn how to end procrastination, end people pleasing, end the perfectionism and the lack of control over your schedule and time. I'm going to teach you how to build habits of emotional resiliency so that you fear failing less, so that you fear disappointing others less, so you feel guilty less, so that you build self-trust and self-validation, so you don't wait around for other people to tell you that you're doing it right. This program is about owning your own work-life balance journey and leaning into the tools that create sustainable work-life balance that works for you. Cannot wait to see how you progress. I'd love to hear from you. Please reach out. Until next week. All right, working moms, let's get to it. If you wake up most days spinning with 100 different priorities vying for your attention, then the daily kickstart is exactly what you need. It's a simple 6-step process that helps you get your thoughts out of your head, reset your mindset, and refocus on what actually matters. It's designed to help shift you out of overwhelm and into calm, confident action before the chaos hits. This daily practice is the same tool I offer to all my clients, and it's going to show you exactly how to lead your day instead of react to it. It takes just 10 minutes a day, and the impact will ripple through everything: your mood, your energy, your presence with your kids, and how you lead at work. My clients indicate time and time again that this tool was the one that made the biggest difference for them, and I'm offering it to you totally free. You can download it by going to www.ambitious-balance.com/daily-kickstart. And of course, I'll have that for you in the show notes as well. All right, working moms, let's get to it.